Hey guys, I'm Savina. Welcome to my channel. So today we have another paranormal video and I'm really excited about this one. But really quick, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, hit the notification button so you know when I upload. Also, I'm going to mention towards the end of this video, I will give a quick update on my Magical Madness giveaway, so stay tuned. So after my first paranormal video, I was pleasantly surprised by the response I got. It's actually in my top 3 for most watched videos. So all that means to me is in the Wizarding World community, there is a high interest for the paranormal or the unexplained. So I figured a good place to pick up on is actually when all my experiences first began. I've gotten actually a lot of personal questions or DMs on my social media, which I love. That's exactly what I want to happen. And in those questions, a lot of people were asking, okay, how old were you when you started having your first experiences? Do they still happen? What were your first experiences? So that's what I'm here to talk about today. My very first unexplained paranormal experiences that I could remember. Now, for me, it all started at the age of 5, and I'm going off of what I could remember. I grew up for at least half of my life in South Florida. So my family and I, we moved around a lot. I've moved around a lot in my lifetime. We moved to a house in West Palm Beach, Florida, and we ended up living there, I want to say 11 or 13 years, so we were there for quite a while. We first moved in there when I was 5 years old. Let me just lay it out for you guys. My house, it was 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. On one side, it was 1 level. In Florida, that's common. On one side, it was my parents' room, their master bedroom. And then all the way on the other side of the house, there was a bathroom. There was 1 room, the bathroom was in the middle, and then another room in this small little hallway. So I actually have 2 brothers and a sister, and we were young, we all shared rooms. In my brother's room, he had a bunk bed, so he would sleep on the bottom bunk, and I would actually sleep on the top bunk. Now, because with my sister, it was her and my baby brother. I don't have a specific time, but I do remember it being pretty quickly, not long after we moved into our house. So we moved in, and these things started happening almost immediately for me. So what it started off with is I remember walking around the house, especially at night, and even going to bed, I would feel somewhat uneasy. That was my first indicator, okay? And then it was one of those things that started off really gradually. So it was the uneasiness. Then, being on the top bunk, right? It had a couple of bars on the side, but I could see through, and we used to sleep with the door open. So you see straight into the hallway. What I remember is one night laying in bed and just drifting off to sleep that I saw something kind of go past, I guess, in the hallway out of my peripherals. I just saw something dark just flash by. So I remember shooting up, sitting upright, and looking in the hallway, not seeing anything, and just going to sleep after that, right? That started happening every night. Every night I remember just seeing something zoom by in the corner of my eye. Then what started happening is over time, and this has to be at least a month or 2 in, it's been happening every night. I just see this whatever it is go by, and then I just end up going to sleep, and then that's that, right? Then there was a night in particular, I remember, again, same thing happened, except instead of this whatever you want to call it, zooming by, it felt like it took its time. So I'm talking about, I see it in the corner of my eye and I'm able to turn and look at it, and it's just this, it was this big mass of black, like this big ball of black is the best way to describe it. It is in the middle of the night, but again, it's one of those darker than night, darker than black things that you can see. And we used to have like a small little light on in the living room that actually somewhat shone through in the hallway, so it wasn't completely pitch black, which I think maybe made all of this even scarier because I could see it, right? So I remember sitting upright and that shadow just slowly go past the hall. Instead of it zooming by every night, I watched this shadow creep by, this big mass of nothingness, really. And it scared me, so I remember going to my mom and dad and being like, hey, at night I see something in the hallway. So mind you, I was 5 years old, and I mean, most people, and I don't blame them, obviously, most people think it's just a kid having this like crazy imagination, right? Like, what are you really supposed to say? How do you rationalize that? I'm a kid. So, they just told me, hey, maybe you're just having a bad dream. Make sure you say your prayers at night. Everything's okay. We're here. Don't worry. So, I mean, what was I supposed to do, right? So every night it just kept happening. Now, things started taking a turn. So again, it went from really quick to creeping by, and then one night, and I will never forget this. Even talking about this right now, it's all so vivid in my mind. It feels like it happened yesterday. I'm 26 now. This is when I was 5 years old, and I could still picture it. So the same thing, I'm getting ready to sleep, and again, all of a sudden, everybody's sleeping, I know it, and it was always around because we had this clock on, my brother had like this desk, and there's a clock there, and it was like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, always. Anyways, I started seeing the black shadow in the corner of my eye. So, I told myself, I remember telling myself, okay, no, it's nothing. Listen to what mom and dad said. Everything's okay. Stand up to it. Nothing is there. I sat up, and what I saw was not just a black mass anymore or a shadow. It was still a shadow, but it was full on in the shape of a person. And even talking about it that still triggers me. This still triggers me. All I remember was this insanely tall shadow that filled the doorway, and I could make out arms and legs, no face, just a shape of a person that I knew was not my mom or dad. And it was terrifying. I could even make out to the sense of, and it's so crazy to see this, but it was somebody tall, and they had like this tall hair is the best way I can describe it, and flat. So it was really weird, The best way I could describe it is if you've ever played, I want to say Tekken and Paul. If you know what I'm talking about, you kind of got a description there, the outline of him. So this really tall shadow that filled the doorway, and I remember looking at it and not being able to move. And I'm just staring. And mind you, this person does not have a face, but I feel as if it's just watching me, like straight watching me. You know, it feels like if its head is turned my way, it's facing me. That's exactly what it felt like. And I just stared at it, and then I watched it slowly walk twice back and forth in the hallway. Oof. This always gets to me still. And I watched it do that, and then I saw it walk away towards my living room. And then that was it. And I remember being so afraid and being worried about my mom and dad and thinking, oh my God, like, is it gonna hurt them? Where did it go? What's it doing? What is that? You know, at this age, again, I'm 5. I have no idea what's going on. I am definitely awake for all of this. All I remember doing after that was just laying down and praying so hard, and just I couldn't wait for it to be bright outside. I remember not really sleeping, kind of peeking into the hallway to see if I would see that again, and I didn't. Now here's the thing. That kept happening again every night. Now it was a person. So imagine you seeing that. It doesn't matter what age you are, 5. It doesn't matter. There's this unexplainable shadow person that you see every night, and it just seemingly so, like they're peeking in on you. And that's exactly to where it got. It got to a point where every night I was seeing the shadow, and then it got to the point where it almost felt like it was about to step into the room. It would kind of peek its head even closer in, pull back, and then walk away. Every single day. I was 5. And I remember one day, because I was afraid to speak up and talk, because I felt like already, even after saying what's going on, that at the age of 5, I realized that nobody's really taken me seriously. So I remember telling my mom and dad now that, hey, I see a person now. And again, you know, I think I remember seeing concern in their face, but they kind of told me the same thing, and I was like, no, you know, it's just your imagination. You're waking up from a dream. And then I remember feeling helpless, and then I remember going to, I want to say, my brother and my sister, and telling them what's happening to me. And of course they didn't believe me either. You know, I just sound like this crazy little kid. Like, my older brother, he's 3 years older than me. My sister's 5 years older than me. So they're just looking at me like I'm a weirdo and kind of just writing it off as like there's nothing there, you know? And every day, it started when I was 5, and every day it continued. It got to the point where, like I said, there was the bunk bed and that side that was open. Every day I would line the bed with pillows to block my view, just so I won't have to see. And no matter how much I blocked it, it made me feel a little bit better, and it allowed me to get some sleep. But I always knew when it was happening. And I would just lay there and tell myself, don't look, don't look. Now, there were times when I did indeed look, and I kid you not, there were times when it was just that one shadow, and then it got to a point where I started seeing 2, and that terrified me even more. I did not think it could get scarier, but it did. And the scary thing about this one, and it was really weird, was that it was a shadow, again, of a person. I could just describe them as like a silhouette of a man, but this guy was shorter and smaller in stature, and it seemed like, even from the outline, that he wore like some kind of beanie or a hat. Like, it's so vivid in my mind, I could see it. The creepiest thing that ever happened to me when it came to this one was one day, when I ended up looking, tall figure was in the doorway, as always, and then this figure was literally like hanging upside down almost, looking in, and the best way I could describe it is like a Spider-Man moment. And I remember at that point, I just pulling the covers over my head and just telling myself, like, okay, it doesn't last that long, it will go away soon. And again, this is something that just kept happening. You know, I went from being 5 to being 6. It was still happening every single night. I had no explanation for it whatsoever. And finally, one day, I guess because maybe I brought it up to my parents again, and maybe they spoke to my grandparents, but my grandma in Florida, when she was alive then still, she was the only person to ever believe me. I remember one day going to her house and her calling me and sitting with me in the room, and she just calmly asked me, you know, what's happening. And I told her, and she was the first person who did not look at me. Oof. That's unexpected. She was the first person that did not look at me like I'm crazy or just a little kid with an overactive imagination. She held my hand and she hugged me and she said, I believe you. Ooh. And I remember for the first time just feeling so relieved and overwhelmed and happy that finally somebody's listening to me. So that day she gave me this pendant and she told me, you know, to wear it every day. I still have it, actually. You know, that makes me think, like, maybe I want to get that back out. She told me to wear it every day, and every time I feel scared to hold on to it. And I did. It was like, it felt like protection. And she told me everything's gonna be okay. And she was the first person to sit down and talk to me and say, hey, you're not crazy. And I believe her words was, I understand, like, I've had things happen to me too. And she was actually the first person to tell me, and what made me feel better from that point on was, what was it exactly? That they're not gonna hurt me, and if they wanted to hurt me, like, I remember her talking to me, like, seriously. I mean, like, if they wanted to hurt you, they would have already. I understand you're scared, I know you're scared, but you have to stand up for yourself and tell them to leave you alone. And then a comforting thought was, she was telling me maybe it's somebody looking over you and looking out for you, at least when it came to the tall shadow figure. For the other one, that the shorter whatever that was didn't happen often, but that was life-changing for me. And after that moment, after talking to her, after having that pendant, it still happened regularly, mainly just the taller shadow after that. And I don't know, I kind of just dealt with it. And that chain, and just knowing that somebody, just one person, was like, okay, you're not crazy. I hear you, was huge for me. And then my family, and I mean, you know, I don't blame them. It's so hard to even, for anybody to wrap their head around something like this, right? Eventually, they realize, like, hey, something's up, right? Other things that started happening to me was, and I had no recollection of this, is I would sleepwalk in the middle of the night on days where I'd fall asleep and like really knock out. I would somehow climb down, there was one of those bunk bed ladders. I will walk across the house, and it didn't happen often, but there was a couple of times my mom did tell me about, and I think that's what really started concerning them. I would walk across the house, open my parents' room, sit on the bed. My mom said I would stare at her, then I would get up and go back to sleep. And I give a lot of props to her. I don't know how she did that. I would have freaked out if I was her. She remained calm. She didn't freak out. God bless you. I don't know. And she would ask me about it the next day. I remember it was like 2 or 3 times that happened. And she was like, what did you dream? Like, what was wrong? How come you came in the room? And why didn't you say anything? And I just looked at her and I said, I didn't do that. I don't remember that. You know, I didn't do that. So for me, that's 2 things, you know. Was I really sleepwalking? And 2, was that really me? You know, that's even creepier to think about, actually. I've never thought about it that way until now. And then after that instance, I think, and maybe because of my grandma, they started taking me seriously and understanding, okay, we don't know what's going on, but something isn't right. So eventually, and I'll say this, even when it came to my siblings, everybody did understand and believe me, because what ended up happening was an experience that involved all of us. And for today, I think that's where I'm going to end. Maybe I'll talk about that story, but that does involve my whole family, so I don't know. You know, I'll see how they feel about it, but I don't mind sharing my personal experiences with you. So until that point, like I said, all of this started for me when I was 5. That point where everything happened to my whole family, and then the switch kind of flipped, and everybody's like, holy crap, like, she's not crazy, or she's not making this up, was when I was around 7 or 8. So it was kind of a gap. That's kind of a long period of time for me to be dealing with all of this, but it did turn around, and now, hands down, they have my back always. I mean, they always had my back, but again, I know how crazy all of this sounds for anybody to believe or understand. I still don't fully understand. And with that, my other answer is yes, I still have experiences to this day. And now I'm just kind of really intrigued by it all, and kind of have a love for it in a way too. Before ending this video, I did say I was going to mention Magical Madness giveaway. So as of right now, we have 192 entries, and it's been amazing. The response I've gotten is amazing. It's still running until the 24th, so if you're not entered right now, it is officially international. I did change it to international. You still have plenty of time to enter. As far as picking the winner goes, I know I'm gonna do some kind of random number generator. My initial thought is to put everybody's Instagram handles in like an Excel sheet and then use a randomizer to pick a number going down, and that would be the winner. If anybody else has any suggestions, please comment down below or email me. That's also in the description. Let me know. Again, don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. Hit the notification button. Stay well, and until next time, guys.